Hello, YouTube viewers. Welcome to another edition of Jackson's Journal. My name is Matthew Jackson. Today, I want to talk to you about trickle-down economics. What is trickle-down economics? And the thing that brought on this discussion, this teaching video about trickle-down economics is I was in a discussion on Facebook with some political people about the recent tax reform bill that was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Trump that will lower a lot of people's taxes, particularly in the middle class, but then also upper class and wealthy as well. And of course, the liberals are against it. They're saying that it takes money from the poor, and of course it's defunding Obamacare, and they don't like that, like it was ever working to begin with, which it wasn't. So anyway, of course the conservatives, the Republican people, they like it because who doesn't want to pay less taxes? Everybody wants to pay less taxes, I would think. And if you want to pay more taxes, if you don't feel, for those of you who are liberal and you don't feel that you're paying enough, you can always write an extra check, and send it into the U.S. Treasury. But anyway, the discussion about that whole thing led to Reaganomics, trickle-down economics, and they said, well, it didn't work back in the 80s because it was a failure then. Of course, it really depends on your point of view. The way I remember history and remember the Reagan era in trickle-down economics, it did work back in the 80s. When Reagan lowered the marginal tax rates, that helped the economy grow. When the economy grew, the revenue going into the Treasury more than doubled. So, even though you may lower the tax rates for individuals, if you stimulate the economy, you'll have more people in the economy working, more employed people, and more employed people you have, the more that it stimulates the economy because you have more taxpayers. That's the principle behind it. But I want to talk about trickle-down economics specifically, and I want to talk about it from two angles. The first angle, I'm going to talk about it from a macro perspective, and then the second angle, I'm going to talk about it from a micro perspective. So first, let's talk about it from a macro perspective. Now, 20 some odd years ago, I was talking to a liberal friend of mine and about politics, and then the discussion led to trickle-down economics, and I learned right away that he didn't know what trickle-down economics was. Here he was, denouncing it, saying, oh, it's horrible, but yet he really didn't understand it. So I had to explain to him what trickle-down economics was, and I did it in a way that he could understand. Now, fortunately, in his situation, he had a wife that was starting a flower shop. Actually, she had already started. The flower shop was in business for maybe 2 or 3 months at the time we had the discussion. So I used his wife's flower shop situation to explain how trickle-down economics works. So let me do that in this video because it's very simple. In fact, it's so simple, a liberal should be able to understand this. Now, this lady, obviously, that started the flower shop, obviously had some working capital to work with. Either she inherited some money from a rich uncle, or she saved her money, or she wrote up a business plan for a flower shop, then took the plan to a bank and got a loan. And either way, you had somebody with wealth who was willing to put their money at risk and invest it in a business, okay? Whether it's a bank loan or she saved her money or whatever. She had to have some working capital because you just don't, flower shops just don't appear out of thin air. You gotta have something. So the fact that there's wealth stored up somewhere and being used to invest in a business, that is one example of a trickle down. Okay, so somebody with wealth, more wealthy than her, invests. Okay, the next thing is, well, she had to sublease or lease a unit in a strip center. Because you got to have your flower shops can be located somewhere. So she leased a unit in the strip center. Well, that has a trickle down effect because it increases or enhances the profitability and sustainability of the guy who owns the strip center. And the same principle works with a mall. The more businesses that you have in a mall or a strip center, that stimulates commerce. That's a good thing because usually when a person goes to a mall or a strip center, they don't just stop at one store. They usually stop at multiple stores. So that has a snowball trickle-down effect as well. Now, once she leased the space, guess what? She had to buy flowers and roses at wholesale from the flower growers and the rose growers. Okay, well, that's another customer for the wholesalers. So that enhances their profitability and sustainability because it enhances the job security of those employed with the rose growers and flower growers. Okay, so that has a trickle-down effect. And also, she had to buy a bunch of supplies, everything that you need to set up a flower shop that doesn't, the non-flower type stuff, furniture. She had to buy paper to wrap the flowers, all the ancillary stuff. Well, that's more profitability, sustainability for the vendors who are providing her those goods and services that she's going to need to run a flower shop. So that has a trickle-down effect. Now, guess what? The flower shop opens up at 9, closes at 7 or 8. They're running 60 to 65 hours a week. Do you think she's going to be there all that time running the flower shop? No. What does she need to do? She needs to hire employees. She hired 2 employees. So that's 2 people out of the unemployment line. That has a trickle-down effect. So if you could see from that perspective how investing in a business, putting your money at risk in hopes that if the business flourishes, the people who invest will profit as well as she will. So that's one way. So that's more the micro level. Now you can take that or macro level that I was just explaining with the flower shop and expand that up to corporations. You think of these rich people that are billionaires and millionaires, they have all this money sitting around. Well, they would like to invest it in businesses and people with entrepreneurs who have innovative products and services that could help people and make life better for us. They're willing to do that. But if we have a government that has a punitive tax system that will punish them for making a profit, they're going to be less motivated to invest their money in businesses. And when businesses don't get the financial backing, well, guess what? They can't hire more people. So look at have you ever wondered about these third world countries where they're run by dictators? And you look in these third world countries and these people, the citizens are living in shacks and, corrugated metal huts that they build. And, it's just abject poverty. And then you look at the dictators are living in palaces. Now that's a place where trickle-down economics is not working. Okay, here in America, we have a free market capitalistic system that provides opportunities for people in poverty. And some of these other nations around the world, they don't have opportunities because they don't have a free market system. They don't have a capitalistic system where people can go out and work. It's all controlled at the top. So now I'm going to use that to segue into the micro aspect of trickle-down economics. And I think this is where a lot of liberals have a lot of misconceptions about trickle-down economics. The liberals that I have spoken with somehow have this idea that if you're in a robust economy and the economy is growing, people's making money, that somehow the person in poverty, all this wealth up at the top is just going to just flow down and dollars are going to land in the lap of a person in poverty. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. If you're a welfare recipient and you're not going to work, you're not necessarily going to be receiving more welfare just because the economy is good. So if that's your conception of what trickle-down economics is, well then yeah, you're going to be very disappointed. It's not going to work well. Trickle-down economics for those who are in poverty are predicated on the premise that the person who is in poverty makes the effort to get an education, acquire a job skill, then go seek out a job. Then when you get the job, show up at the job on time and sober. And then when you're there working, put in an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Now, if you do those things, the chances of you benefiting from the trickle-down economy are much higher, okay? If you wait till after you get married to have your children, don't have babies out of wedlock. Having babies before you get married, that is one sure way, that is one good obstacle that you're going to have to contend with in taking advantage of the trickle-down system. Staying off drugs, staying out of crime. You got to live right, make good decisions. So there is some responsibility of those who are living in poverty that they've got to they got to elevate themselves and better themselves. The best thing you can do for a person who is in poverty is to provide an economic system where there are job opportunities. In these third world countries where these are run by dictators, many of them don't have the job opportunities. Fortunately, here in America, even when our economy's bad, was only growing at a 1% rate under Obama, we still had opportunities. We still had trickle down. It just didn't trickle down as good as it would if we had lower taxes. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, if you want to help people in poverty, help them by creating job opportunities. And then if they can take advantage of those opportunities, then they're going to get out of poverty. Now I'm talking about those people who are able-bodied, who are capable of working. I'm not talking about the elderly who are, and the handicapped. Obviously, we have to have some sort of safety net for those guys. But I'm talking about people who are living in poverty, who are able-bodied and capable of working. That's what I'm talking about here. So, yeah. You have to, on the macro level, it's good to have an economic free market system where there's job growth, industry, where we need employees, provide that area where someone who is in poverty can lift themselves up, get an education and job skills, and lift themselves out. So it's not just them just sitting at home and boom, I'm rich now, or I'm better off now. Now, not everybody that benefits from the trickle-down system necessarily is going to be rich. Take me, for example. I'm just your average middle-class Joe, but definitely I have benefited from the Reagan tax cuts. I benefited from the Bush tax cuts because I'm middle class. I'm not rich. But I worked hard, I acquired job skills, and I'm living fairly well. Am I rich? No, but hey, I got everything I need. I'm very happy. And I don't envy a guy who gets rich and makes millions if he wants to go out there and work hard for his money. And, I don't envy that guy at all. In fact, these rich people, the way they get rich is they have to hire people to work for them because they can't do all the work themselves. So I've made a whole career as a quality professional, helping people, helping businesses, helping guys who have more money than me run their business. So no, I don't envy a rich guy at all. In fact, I'll work for him and help run their quality systems or whatever. So anyway, I hope I explained trickle-down economics. And I explained it from macro and micro levels. So that concludes my lecture on trickle-down economics today. Thank you for watching, and God bless.